Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. This is a podcast to inspire, uplift, show forth the love of God, and help usher in the spiritual awakening. Hello, this is Jay Spillers with Inspire Me with Jay. I have a guest today, Diane Hill. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Jay.
So, why don't you tell the audience what you do?
Okay, so my name is Di Hill. I am a transformational coach and I radically work with people to help them discover who they truly are deep down inside, underneath who they think they should be, so they can really live their life in alignment with their soul, so they can discover their true purpose in life and call in the abundant, magnificent life that we are all worthy and deserving of. I'm also an energy healer and I work with a lot of self-limiting beliefs, trapped emotions, and help people heal so they can really release and heal the wounds from the past.
So, what got you into energy healing and to life coaching and the things that you're doing?
Well, it's been a very organic process. About 8 years ago, I had a spiritual awakening. Actually, I was in New York and I heard my name 7 times in 24 hours. And by the 7th time, I was actually at the Twin Towers Memorial site. And around the 2 plinths are all the names of the people that passed away that day. And in front of me was a lady called Diane T. Singer and her unborn child. And as I sort of stumbled away, obviously I was very upset about what had happened, but it was about half an hour later that I realized I'd heard my name again. And so I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge and I stood there slightly fearful, but said, listen, whoever's talking to me, whoever is trying to get through to me, I'm listening. And I can safely say from the depths of my soul that I have just tuned into why I'm here, to live from a place of love, to teach others how to live from the vibration of love, to really come home to themselves so they can create the life that they want. So in this space of 8 years, I've created this transformational coaching business. I've written a strategy called the Up-Leveled Human, which takes people on this journey. I've also written a best-selling personal development book called Authentic, Aligned and Abundant. And then I became an energy healer because I realized it's so much to do with our vibrations and the energy that we hold inside. And when we actually go back and heal what's holding us back from the past, we can absolutely live in this gorgeous, happy, peaceful harmony and enjoy life the way we were designed to.
Or do you think it was like an angel or a spirit guide or something that spoke to you?
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I've never had anything like that happen to me before. A year ago, I'd had a bit of an awakening and I felt very disconnected with what I was doing in the world. And I really felt like I was having a bit of a midlife crisis. It was a bit cliched. And I felt very disconnected. You would never have known, I sort of projected a very happy image. I've got a family, I've got 3 kids, sort of all the sort of bells and whistles. But I felt this deep kind of fear that time was running out and that I wasn't going to find my purpose in life. So I absolutely do believe that it was divine intervention. And like I say, everything after that was kind of magical.
What did the voice give you any instructions when you said, I'm listening?
I wouldn't say it was instruction. I think it was more that I tuned in to how I was thinking and feeling and being far more excited to say yes to things that maybe I would have said no to in the past. I kind of just opened my mind up. I started doing a lot of meditation. I started reading a lot of books and visualization. And then, of course, lockdown came along. And that's actually, even though I was homeschooling my 3 children, that's actually when I created my business. And kind of these books and articles and more meditation kind of just came together for me to really create this incredible life-changing program.
So it was kind of like you got on the same wavelength as, more spiritual wavelength.
Definitely. And I'm a deeply spiritual person. So a lot of people, when they first come and speak with me, they're worried that they might become so spiritual they can't actually kind of exist in the 3D world that we live in. And what I really teach is that it is possible, and that spirituality isn't some kind of out there, esoteric, kind of hard to grasp, abstract context. It's actually about living deeply with your truth, listening to your, the voice in your heart, and living from that space, making decisions that feel good versus being kind of, dragged along by your ego and all the beliefs and the conditioning that we think is how we live life. So, yeah, I think very much a spiritual path.
Well, I mean, like, spirituality can be interconnected, and it can happen in the mundane things in life too, like if you're cooking or you're playing with your kids or whatever, you can be in a spiritual place.
I totally agree. It's about being very, very present. It's about being truthful with, really, I'm always doing like an energetic checkup. How am I feeling in the moment? Is this what I'm wanting to say yes to? If not, why not? What's coming up for me if I'm making decisions that don't feel good? Because most of the time, as you would know, humans are making decisions from a place of fear, from their subconscious. And so absolutely, when we can get really tuned in to that presence and that beautiful vibration of love, cooking, filling the dishwasher, playing with the children, sitting in traffic, whatever, you can still be very, very deeply spiritual because you're sitting in that very beautiful, peaceful place.
So were you spiritual at all before you heard that voice?
I'd been brought up with a religious upbringing. And then I think, like many of us in a Western culture, it wasn't, I went off and I left the family home and I grew up and, I went to university, etc. And so now I look back, I think I always was, but it was something that I'd pushed down and denied for a long time. So I went into the corporate world, I did what society says you should do, I ticked off all the boxes, but I couldn't work out why I wasn't happy. But now I look back and I think there were elements where I was definitely wanting to be my true, authentic self and live in alignment with my spiritual self. But I just didn't let it come to the surface, which I think is the same for many people.
You're listening to the Inspire Me with Jay podcast. Please do like and subscribe to the channel, bringing hope and inspiration to the world.
So is the primary connection you make every day through meditation? Is that kind of like where you connect to God or to the source or the divine?
Well, I do meditate a lot, and I will choose whether it's a silent meditation or a guided meditation. I guess because it's become so habitual to me now, I don't necessarily have to do meditation. I will actually sort of sit there and say, what is it I need right now? I will really tune in to that essence, that energy within my body as to what it is I'm really seeking in that moment. So it might be a meditation. It might be a healing practice. It might be tapping. It might be journaling. It might be intuitive journaling or stream of consciousness writing. So I really kind of tune in to what feels right in that moment in time. I think there's a danger, otherwise it can become very prescriptive. And, again, it's like a tick box thing. And then people are like, why is this not working? But really, spirituality is about living in alignment with your truth and stripping it back in whatever way you need to in order to be able to sort of turn that volume up and turn this one down. in whatever the
It's sort
method
of
works
being
for you.
mindful every day.
Mm.
Yeah. It's sort of
Very,
being
very
mindful every
present.
day where you're in the present moment. Yeah.
Mm.
So
And
like,
self-awareness, obviously.
well, so like, how do you help people that come into you? Do you try to get them aligned with their spiritual side, or so that you can do energy work and you can help them be a more authentic person?
So when most people start working with me, it definitely starts from a place of, I'm not happy. Is this it? I'm seeking more fulfillment. I'm generally getting to, midlife and thinking, well, what's the point of me? Like, why am I here? So the spirituality side, I think really, it's always there, but it's really about taking people from their heads down into their hearts. So it is very much a process. So those early days are really drilling down to, well, what it is, what is it, what do you want? Why do you want it? What are the beliefs holding you back? We sit a lot in like childhood and the past and where perception comes from. And then we do quite a lot of technical work in terms of how the subconscious brain works, so they can really create that radical self-awareness around when they get triggered, and that it's always from something from the past. It's never about the actual story of the moment. So they can really do that kind of deep inquiry as to what's really going on. And then once we've done that, I do quite a lot of different techniques in order to release those beliefs, which might be tapping. We might do some NLP. We might do some channeled talking with the ego and the soul. So once we get to that point, it kind of opens up the possibility to talking on a more deeply spiritual level. So I'm always ascertaining kind of where my clients are at. Some clients come in and they are, spiritual already, and they just want to really build on that, on how to get to their purpose work. Others come in and they're totally in their head. They've never listened to that voice in their hearts. So it's a journey. And then by the time we start talking about values, needs, what does alignment look like, that's where we really get into the spiritual side of things.
So, I mean, in terms of like channeling, is that like channeling your higher self? Like you sit in stillness and you try to hear your higher self speak?
And anyone can channel. It's actually, once you start just quieting it all down and actually start performing kind of I do it with tapping. Other people, they can just sit there and channel in the moment, or they might meditate to meet their higher self. It's actually quite easy when you're not trying to think of what it is you're trying to say. The words will just start flowing. And I do a beautiful technique where we talk to the ego first of all, and even the voice is just so different. The ego is, quite mean and judgy, and telling you all the terrible stuff and how you shouldn't do this and you should stay safe. And then when you speak to the higher self, it's just so much more of a beautiful message. It's your sage, it's your inner wisdom. It's got all the answers. And I think it really does surprise my clients when we do this work, because they realize it's actually within them. They've just never really listened to it, because this wants to be the loudest voice of all. But this is the voice that wants to really guide you. So it's very special work.
Mm-hmm. Well, like in terms of the superego, that's sort of connected to the spirit of God, kind of the divine within us. And, a lot of people might think because it is so much kinder and more loving that it's God.
Well, it's God, source, universe. We are all one large collective consciousness, so again, depending on where my client is at in terms of developing their spirituality, really will depend on how, I guess, down the line I can go with very kind of esoteric, more ethereal kind of concepts. So, but when we can really get into the fact that we are spiritual beings, having a physical experience and it's not the other way around, they start opening their mind up to the fact that, yes, it's the God inside of us that is, if you're religious or not, or universe source, like I say, whatever, or higher self, whatever it is you want to label it, it's still that divine, real, sacred power that sits within ourselves, that essence that makes us who we truly, truly are. That's what I'm looking to tap into. And I think it really, it blows people's minds, doesn't it, when they actually start tapping into this way and being guided by that place. Just brings so much more peace and ease and happiness. And then, of course, we're vibrating at a whole different frequency of energy. We're vibrating at love and joy and gratitude. And life becomes easy and it flows. And we see life abundantly and from a place of gratitude. It's a very beautiful place to live, as I'm sure you know.
So it's like, if you're getting stressed out and distracted during the day, is it good even if you can just go take a minute or a few minutes and, quiet the mind and body, maybe do some kind of mini meditation of some sort to like refocus you back on love and kindness and those kind of things?
To an extent. And I think this is where the coaching that I do is quite different to quite a lot of, traditional life coaches. I don't do goal setting and all that sort of stuff. We look at dreams and perfect life and all that. But what I'm interested in, if you're overwhelmed and you're stressed and you're anxious, really kind of, meditating or saying positive affirmations or, nice positive self-talk, it's kind of almost like plastering over a bit of broken wood or broken wall or papering over the cracks. Whereas actually, I'm interested in getting into the energy behind it, the energy of stress and fear and where that's coming from, and actually releasing that person of that first. So then they can go, yes, meditate, chant, do your positive affirmations, whatever it is you need to do in order to sort of set yourself up for the day. But that back end energy healing work is so important. Otherwise, we will be so used to going into overwhelm and stress, and we almost like seek, if it's within us, we will seek situations to confirm to ourselves that it is correct. And energy attracts like energy. So if we're feeling the energy of stress and overwhelm, we will attract more to feel that. So yes, go away and do meditation or journaling, but also dare to go in to what's causing the stress and the overwhelm. What is actually going on? Why am I giving meaning to it? For example, if, I've got 3 kids, 2 dogs and 1 husband, that's a lot. Okay. So, but that to me that's normal. But someone, say, living on their own might come into my house and go, wow, it's really busy. There's a lot going on here. So it's all perception, right? So it's about going into, why am I overwhelmed? What am I telling myself? What is that fear that's coming up? What's the belief? We need to go into that and release that, so then you can go and do the meditations. Now, if I get overwhelmed, I'm going to go remove myself away from the situation. I might do some Kundalini breathing, but I will generally tap and I will say exactly what it is I'm feeling, so I can actually release the energy around it. And then I'm back to feeling great again. So I think it's just about using the modality that works for you.
Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone: How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn: mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6-star rating, available on Amazon. What does tapping involve?
So I'm qualified in a form of tapping called the rapid relief technique. Now, it's got its basis in emotional freedom technique. And emotional freedom technique is probably the form of tapping that most people have heard of, which is tapping on very specific points of the body to send vibrations through where energy meridians meet. So tapping on very specific points of the body and putting a vibration through to dislodge the energy, because everything is energy. Our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, everything in us is energy as well. Our words are as well. So if we swallow our words, we don't fully feel and express our emotions, because that's what we're taught. We're not allowed to show these sort of darker emotions. Or if we're angry, we're like, swallow it all down, or we feel frustrated, we kind of ignore it, we might distract ourselves. That energy is still there. So the energy has never been properly processed and released. When you feel an emotion, it's actually a chemical cycle in the body which is meant to be fully felt, processed, and released. Think of a caveman, grunting and getting that energy out. They're actually getting the energy out, whereas we live in a world which says, don't get angry, stiff upper lip if you're from the UK, stop crying. And we even teach our children that, don't we? We stop crying, stop sulking, stop shouting, pull yourself together. So we learn to suppress and repress these emotions, but they're not gone, they're still in us. So when we're tapping, the EFT version, the emotional freedom technique version of tapping, is a neutralizing mechanism. So it's more about, you're saying, even though I'm feeling anxious, I still unconditionally love and accept myself. I'm feeling all this anxiety, and it will kind of calm everything back down again. Whereas the rapid relief technique is slightly different. We actually go into those really dark, deep reasons as to why you might feel anxious, frustrated, angry, irritated, jealous, all those darker ones. And so it involves going back to the past. But once you start working on the root cause, wow, the results are absolutely golden. It has transformed my life. It transforms my clients' lives, and I wouldn't be without it. I wish every child in the world could know how to tap.
So it's kind of like getting in tune with your feelings.
Massively.
And your emotions.
It's allowing yourself to have them to have their say. So if you've got, say you've suppressed stuff like from your childhood, and situations that happened and you've never really fully expressed them. And people say all the time, oh, I've let it go, I'm fine. But then they're triggered by situations, they haven't really let it go. So this is a radical way of going, it's safe to feel these emotions. It's just an energy. It's energy in motion. That's what an emotion is. And to allow it to have its say. So I hold a very kind of safe, private space for people to really get their true feelings out. Even if what they're saying is, they would never say it to that person, but it's about really getting it out of their systems. And the reason it's called the rapid relief technique is because it works very, very fast.
Well, probably a lot of people that are spiritual and do different practices, when they feel stressed or anxious, they might feel like, oh, I'm a failure because I'm not really supposed to have these kind of emotions anymore.
But again, it's about being honest with yourself. And there is, again, that's so true. We're kind of thought, oh no, just because I'm spiritual, I'm not allowed to feel angry or disappointed or sad. But we're human beings, and we've been given an entire spectrum of emotions, from really the real dark stuff right up until joy and enlightenment and pure love and happiness. So we are allowed to feel these feelings. So when my clients are on a spiritual path and they almost berate themselves and they're frustrated that they're feeling these darker feelings, it's actually a massive gift, because it's just showing you something that needs to heal. And the more you work on it, the more you express it, the more you release it, the more you come back to the vibration of love, which is actually the vibration we are meant to be experiencing life from, because we're cut from the same source as God or universal source or whatever you want to call it.
So you work primarily with women.
Yes, but I'm branching out. So my original course was called the Up-Leveled Woman. And, you know, I think a lot of coaches, including myself, they're leading others because they've been on that path. So it's, you know, it makes sense, doesn't it, that it would be, you know, maybe another midlife woman or whatever. But as I've evolved, this is about really living from pure consciousness. It's about releasing limiting beliefs. It's about living from your truth. So I'm actually in the process of, I have a digital version of my course that's now being changed into the Up-Leveled Human. And so I take men on this journey as well. I'm not trying to sound biased or anything, but sometimes I think women are more open to doing this work. Certainly that's in my experience. But I've worked with many men in terms of the tapping, and it's quite incredible for them to experience these release of emotions that they would have pushed down over the years and they didn't feel it was safe to show. So it can be incredibly, incredibly healing for them.
So you have a digital course, like is online course?
Yeah, so on my website, I have an online course called The Up-Leveled Woman, and it is a 12-module course. And I have clients that do that as well as private clients. And I'm really, I guess, humbled to say that my clients will get exactly the same transformation from doing that digital course as they would if they were doing the private one-on-one with me, because this work needs to be accessible to everybody. You know, it's not only available to a small cohort of people. This work should be taught right from, you know, kindergarten. So I have this digital course, which is very, very accessible. You still have access to me because I think with a lot of online courses, I know I've got a few sitting in my inbox. If you're not held accountable or, you know, you haven't got someone like prodding you to go along and do it, the weeks go by. So when you actually have access to someone who really sits in a place of love and support and availability for you, I think it really helps when you are doing self-study courses as well. I know that from the self-study courses I've done, and I've had like a weekly check-in or a weekly Q&A, it's been absolutely amazing.
I spent several years of my life stressed, anxious, and depressed. I needed to find something that would make my life work. For me, that was meditation. With meditation, I found the peace of mind that I was looking for. I found the happiness. And I found a way to improve every area of my life, my emotional life, my spiritual life, my relationships. I was able to discover things about myself. I can give you the tools to meditate. I will walk you through the process and hold your hand. Whether you're a beginner to meditation who's never meditated, or whether you're someone who's tried meditation and it just never seemed to work, we can make it work. Meditation is something that everyone can do, and I can show you how. Check out my course on meditation. So, do you do like a podcast or anything online to talk to people?
So I'm pretty vocal on social media. I guess my main channel would be Facebook. I do put things up on YouTube. So I'm very prolific on Facebook. That's where I hang out most of the time. I'm also on LinkedIn, a bit on Instagram. But yeah, that's where I am predominantly. I'm often guests on a podcast. I think I have to be mindful of my energy and how much I can divide myself up, because I also host retreats all over the world. I'm really, really passionate about what I do. So I have to be quite boundaried with my time as well. And podcasts is something I love to do. And I love to be guests on podcasts.
Have you written any books, or are you planning on writing any books?
So I've written the best-selling book, Authentic, Aligned and Abundant, your AAA guide to creating your magnificent life. And that is available on Amazon.com. And that launched in 2022. And that will take you on a journey of discovering your authenticity, so you can discover what it is in alignment with your soul, and then how to call in the incredible abundant life that we're all deserving of. So it's a very beautiful journey, and I've very much written it from my heart to yours. You know, when people read that and they say, it's like you wrote it for me. And I think when you can become relatable, because there's so many people out there which I think we kind of almost put on a pedestal and think, gosh, you know, I'll never be like that, or, you know, there's no chance I'll ever be like them. I'm just a normal human being. I just want to live my life from a place of love and beauty and joy, and understand how life really works. So that's why I wrote the book. I wanted to really be able to reach as many people as possible. And then there's the digital course. And then, of course, there's the private coaching as well.
So, like, how do you usually start your journey to your authentic self?
Well, you really begin by choosing what it is you really want and why. You really get in touch with like what your blocks are and why you haven't created what it is you want. Why do you keep on creating the same old issues, or why do you self-sabotage yourself? Why are you not getting what you want? And I think it was Oprah Winfrey that said, if you know what you don't want, you know what you do. So we do it quite, you know, perfect lives often change right from the beginning. You think you want this, but actually when you do a journey like this, you just want peace. And the money in the bank or the holiday to that place, that's just buffering. You just want peace and flow and ease and love. So we sit a lot in kind of what is it you want and why. And then we really get into childhood and perception, because I don't think most people understand that 95% of the way we live our life is governed by the subconscious. And that subconscious has been programmed and imprinted and conditioned. And, you know, we are literally living according to thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that are not ours. So I teach a lot. It's very, very eye-opening, because it's like, once you know this stuff, you can never go back to sleep, because then suddenly you realize that you've lived your life living according to who you think you should be, from a place of trying to stay safe and ultimately surviving in the world, because it's all our ego wanting validation, approval, acceptance, and ultimately love, when actually this is about you living in alignment with this place. So we come back to our authenticity by really going through those beliefs. And it's not linear. It's not like you start A and you get to B. You know, this path it's like this a lot of the time. There's a lot of 2 steps forward, 8 steps back. But once you start bringing this all to the surface and having radical self-awareness of what triggers you and why, you've then got a foundation of what to work on. What does it remind me of? Why do I act like that? It's never about the event. It's always something way back. And it's all, you know, this is deep inner child stuff. So we then sit in a place of deep love and worthiness for ourselves. And this can be some challenging weeks, you know, to really fall in love with our authentic self, so we can then start living from our truth. So it's a real process to be able to get to that place where we can truly look ourselves in a mirror and say, I love you. Everything, the good, the bad, the failures, the perceived mistakes. Actually, I love myself, because many people cannot do that because they have terrible self-worth, or they have a lack of self-esteem, or they actually don't like themselves at all. But that's all from conditioning and who they think they should be and what they heard as a child. And maybe they were told they weren't good enough, or they were compared, or they were rejected. So they're coming from a deep sense of lack. So to be able to sit in that place of gorgeous, deep reverence for yourself, of who you truly are, and love your authentic self, that then paves the way to being able to sit in forgiveness for others as well as towards yourself, and then be open to who you are, what's important to you, your unique values, your needs. So then you can start listening to yourself. You can start making decisions that feel good versus ones that you're making because it's the safer option, because that's what your ego wants. So we really remove any kind of external validation. This is about the only person you need to be validated by is your higher self. This is a very beautiful process.
Yeah, so it's basically internal rather than external, that you need to find it within. And of course, your higher self already validates you as worthy and beautiful and lovely.
And that's when we do the tapping, like we do the ego and channel tapping. It's just so fascinating to be able to sort of see it from the outside looking in, because the higher self, your wisdom, your sage, has nothing but love, as you said, and just the way that sort of channels through you, and just the communication and the words that your higher self would use is just all from a place of deep love. So I think that blows my clients' minds when they start channeling.
So what would be one final word you'd like to leave with the audience before we close out?
To live your life through the eyes of your heart, and to quieten down the slave of your ego, just to go with what makes you feel good. Don't keep listening to this place. This is what wants to lead the way, but to live your life through the eyes of your heart. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on today. It was a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for being so accommodating, Jay. I really enjoyed it, as you can tell.